If you're heading to AgriScot on the 19th of November, join us for a live episode recording with SAYFC. Starting at 9 a.m. in Seminar Room 2, I'll be joined by Katrina Gemmell and Jack Young to record an episode on what young farmers has meant for their well-being, how Katrina filled that void when it was time to move on, and maybe a few tales from those legendary young farmers' dances. Pop along to be part of the blether. That's AgriScot, 9 a.m, Seminar Room 2. Now, on with the show. Welcome to Blether Together, brought to you by Farmstrong Scotland. I'm your host, Sarah Stephen, and together we'll be travelling across Scotland to chat to farmers and crofters to learn more about them, their businesses, challenges, and the positive steps they take to manage their well-being. Our thanks go to NFU Mutual Charitable Trust for supporting the podcast series, and to our founding funders, Movember and the Royal Highland Agricultural Society of Scotland. Stafford McDowall grew up on his family dairy farm, Rerick Park in Dumfries. Throughout his childhood, he got stuck in whether it was helping with the milking, feeding with the calves, or covering the silage pit. However, it was rugby that sparked his passion, starting when he was at Kirkcudbright Academy playing for Stewartry RFC. His talent for the sport has now led him to making it a full-time career, and today he plays for the Glasgow Warriors, as well as the national Scotland team. He won his first Scotland cap in the Rugby World Cup warm-up match against Italy in 2023, and made his Guinness Six Nations debut earlier this year against Ireland. And just a few months ago, he was named as co-captain for Scotland's opening match of the Skyscanner Americas Tour, scoring a first international try in the win over Canada in Ottawa. In our blether today, we discussed mental anchoring, pre-match carbonara, and the roller coaster of rugby. Stafford, welcome to Farmstrong Scotland podcast. It's lovely to have you with us. I know you're just back from tour, so what does today look like? Is it a training day or is it a rest day?
Thank you very much for having me on. No, today is a rest day, thankfully. So I start pre-season in about 2 weeks in Glasgow. So I've just got back from holiday yesterday. So I think I'll have today off just to get a bit of the jet lag out of the system. And then I'll go back to some training tomorrow before the weekend.
And reflections on the tour, how did it go?
It was my first summer tour. So I've been a part of the squad for a couple of years now consistently, but kind of with the World Cup and stuff, it was my first chance to do a summer tour. So I really enjoyed it, a chance to see some other countries that you maybe wouldn't usually get to play against with Scotland and tour some interesting places. So it was a cool experience.
You're pretty experienced. You've played a lot. Do you still get those pinch me moments, or is it just like, hey, I'm off on tour, I'm going to America and, the North America, I take it all in my stride, or do you still get that, sort of butterflies in the belly?
No, I think you definitely do, especially when you're kind of involved with Scotland. I've only got 5 caps now after the tour, so especially going into that first game against Canada, it was definitely a few pinch me moments, especially when my dad came over as well to watch the game. So it's always special, even when you play for Glasgow, but even more when you play for your country, then kind of getting to look up into stands and see your family there. It makes it even more special than it already is.
I know, I'm amazed a dairy farmer took a day off work.
I know, yeah. He really enjoyed it. So I think he was in Canada for a total of 4 or 5 days, so he managed to get some time away.
I'm not from a farming background, but I married a farmer, and every time you suggest doing something, they go, oh, no, we don't have time to do that. I'm very busy. But as soon as you book it, they go, oh, no, I want to come. No, I don't want to miss that. There's serious FOMO.
I know, yeah. I think it was the same with Dad. He was humming and hawing whether he was going to come out or not. And then once I told him that I was starting, he was like, okay, I'm going to just book it and get it done. So no, I think afterwards he was definitely glad that he came, and we managed to get some cool photos we won a trophy for winning the game, so we managed to get some photos in the stands afterwards with that as well. And he came to the post-match function with a few of the new caps. One of the local boys, Robbie Smith from Newton Stewart, he got his first cap. So Dad had kind of known him growing up, so it was cool for him to be there for that as well and see Robbie get his first cap.
So a bit of a break and then back into training. What does a typical day look like when you're training and you're focused on the rugby?
Pre-season usually looks a bit different than kind of in the season when you've got maybe a URC or a Champions Cup game. But pre-season we'll probably be in the building around 7:30, 8 o'clock. They can have a breakfast straight into a team meeting where they're going to lay out what the plan is for that day or that week if it's Monday. And we usually will split. So the backs will go into the gym first. So that can maybe be an hour and a half, 2 hours in pre-season of gym work. And then we'll usually go straight out onto the pitch for a team unit session. So I'll be just the backs, keep the forwards away for a little bit. That again could be an hour and a half. It usually takes us up to lunchtime. Then we'll have another meeting after lunch. Then that's kind of when we'll have our big team session post-lunch. Some will be an hour and a half, 2 hours again out on the pitch. And then after that in pre-season, maybe it's a bit different. You'll probably come back in again and do some more gym or some more conditioning. Just a little bit different when you don't have a game at the end of the week. Put out a little bit more exertion during the week because obviously you don't have to be fresh for a game on a Friday or a Saturday. So, but then during the season, that maybe tapers off a bit in terms of the length of the sessions and what you're doing in sessions.
When you go on holiday, are you still quite focused and disciplined, or do you say, right, let's have the extra pina colada?
I think in terms of after a long season like that, you're definitely told to unwind a little bit more. So from the end of tour, just under 4 weeks till we start the next season again. In terms of this one, they're kind of like, well, there's under 4 weeks, there's not really that much you can lose. Say you go on holiday for a week, 2 weeks. I don't think you can hopefully not do that much damage to yourself in that time. So yeah, obviously I did a little bit of gym in the hotel, the odd run on a treadmill and stuff like that. And we played some pickleball and some tennis when we were out there. But apart from that, it's just kind of giving the body and mainly the head as well some time to refresh. Obviously it was a long season with a lot of travel and stuff like that. So the last thing I think you want to do is come into the next season already burnt out from the season before.
Don't worry, you've ticked all the boxes for the coaches. They know you did the work.
There's a few pina coladas and a few beers in there as well. So you can hear that. But yeah, that was good.
I know. I mean, I think of rugby clubs across the land and mini rugby clubs and micro rugby clubs, all these little players, a lot of dreams to want to do what you're doing. And when was that seed sown for you? When did you think, oh yeah, no, this is what I want to do?
I think growing up, like my dad's a massive rugby fan. He played for Ayr and he played for Stewartshire a lot and he played for Glasgow, and it was amateur, that it was always kind of there that if the opportunity was there growing up, like coming through Stewartshire, kind of when you get to under 15s, under 16s and you start doing the regional age grade stuff, like your head starts wondering like, oh, could this actually be a thing when you're going through those age grade teams? And obviously you think you're playing for Glasgow Warriors and stuff like that as well. I think when you get to the start of that, you think, oh, wow, I wonder if I can make this a career. But then it's like any kind of sport, you go through so many ups and downs. You're thinking every second week, oh, is this going to work out? Is this going to be for me? And then you pick up an injury. I remember I was under 16s and I'd just been selected for like a Scotland trial camp and everything was going really well. Then we played for Stewartshire on the Saturday before and I did my AC joint in my shoulder. So I was out for 3 months and I remember being on the side of the pitch, 16 years old, bawling my eyes out because I thought that was it. I was like, I can't do this Scotland under 16s camp. It's going to be my career over. I'm never going to make it from here. So yeah, I guess when you're younger, you go through so many ups and downs, but I think if it's meant to be and you work hard, then it'll happen. So thankfully for me, it managed to.
Do you ever think I've made it, or is that carrot just get further and further away?
Yeah, and it never comes. I always remember Johnny Gray saying to me when I was in the academy, he was like, rugby's that sport that when you think you've cracked it, it'll just chuck you out the other side and put you right back to the start again. So it's one of those sports that can be cruel in so many different ways, but also give you the highest of highs as well. I think that's probably one thing I've learned is to never think that I've cracked or you've made it, because there's always something that'll be there to knock you back down again.
We talk about that as Scottish mentality, don't we? That we always are self-deprecating, we never think we're good enough. And it seems to sort of plague sometimes sport in Scotland. You're on the other side of things, so you're professional, you know that you're good enough if you put in the work and you put in the effort. Do you think there is a Scottish mentality when it comes to sport, that we are, oh well, we'll do what we can and we'll do our best? And sometimes it feels that way as a spectator.
Yeah, I think so. I think Scottish teams always do better when they're underdogs. I think you've got nothing, you just got that mentality, you've got nothing to lose, and it's that Scottish thing of, oh, we're the underdog, we'll show people that we're better than they think we are. And I think it's probably flipping that mindset to, if you can do it when you're the underdog, it's just a mentality of the ability is there. Like if you're good enough to win the game, then you're going to win the game. That mentality is just a switch in that mentality from, oh, if we're underdogs, we can do it like this, but actually, no, if we're favourites, then we can do it as well. And I think that's going to be the interesting thing with us next season at Glasgow Warriors, is that whole playoff run, probably apart from the quarter-final against the Stormers, we were underdogs. And then we've gone and won the whole thing. So now we're going to be the team that people are expecting to go and do it again or go far in the competition again. So it's going to have to be a mentality switch from us to, look, now we're the ones with the targets on our back. How do we deal with that and how do we keep performing kind of to a high level?
Physically huge demands, but how do you keep mentally strong? I mean, do you have help? Do you have assistants? Do you have people that sort of sit you down and go, okay, what are you feeling today?
Yeah, I think it's been something in the last kind of 2 or 3 years that Scottish rugby's kind of just started to take more of an interest in, really. And in terms of, with Glasgow now, we have a sports psychologist or a psychologist that comes in once a week. Who you can just make an appointment with one-on-one. She doesn't really do team stuff. It was more just if you need to see her on like an individual basis. And then with the national team, They started 3 or 4 years ago. I think it was the 2019 World Cup, and with a guy called Ben Scott. And then now they've got a guy, Aaron Walsh, who's from the Chiefs in New Zealand. So he came on tour with us, and he comes over for the Six Nations and the Autumn Internationals and stuff like that. And he does more team stuff in terms of he'll lay down like a mental anchor for the week that the team can follow and stuff like that. So it's definitely something that I know it's something that the All Black and teams like that have done for years now, and everyone's talked about how they've always had a psychological advantage, but it's now something that I think you'll struggle to find most tier one international teams that won't have a sports psychologist on board to kind of help with that.
Are you a good sharer?
I think so, yeah. I think with them one-on-one, you trust them and you know you can share anything with them. They're so good, they can kind of delve into my mind like that, and like he knows what I'm thinking before I even say it. You don't realise, but they are always watching, and obviously they're in that job for a reason because they're good at it. So, but yeah, it's helped me massively in terms of preparation for games and the way they speak to you about actually with your going into every game with goals and what you want to achieve, and it helps you just kind of have a lot clearer picture in your mind of what you want to do.
So farming background, grew up in a dairy farm. Just, okay, imagine I'm an estate agent and you're selling the farm. Just paint a brief description of life in Dumfries on the farm.
Yeah, right on the coast, down in Dumfries and Galloway, in the southwest in Stuart Traits. Looking back now, I don't think I appreciate how much of an amazing place it is to grow up until you kind of live in the city and you realise how much open space is limited up here. I absolutely loved it there. I've got 3 older sisters. It's kind of growing up by the sea and stuff like that as well. You don't realise how lucky you are to live in a place like that until you move away from it.
How involved were you when you were growing up?
I think it would just be any kind of standard kid that's grown up on a farm. We'd always trying to be out helping dad kind of do a job, especially kind of our farm went through a bit of a transition as we were growing up. The farm was expanding and we were growing the herd size as well. So, and then when I left school, so my final 2 years I was at boarding school up in Edinburgh. When I left school, I had a place to study agriculture at Newcastle. I deferred that for a year to kind of give rugby a shot. So I came back and I worked on the farm for a year when I left school. And I played for Ayr. So that was kind of probably where my main involvement was in terms of actually having a lot to do with the farm was on that year. And then kind of from that, I was offered a full-time academy contract with Glasgow and had a discussion with dad and said, look, I'd quite like to give this a shot in terms of I don't want to look back and say that I missed this opportunity. And that's kind of something that he said that when he was going through that phase that maybe his dad wasn't as keen on him being given that opportunity. So he was really keen to let me go and have a shot at it. And I'm sitting here 7 years later now. I don't know if he thought it was going to work out like this. He's still plugging away a lot down there. So we talk about it, it's probably not a normal, like if I'm going to go home and take over the farm and I retire, it's not a normal transition for a family farm as the person who's taking over the business not coming home until maybe they're 30, 31, 32 years old. So
you've got 3 sisters. What's their involvement?
Becky and Katrina are twins, so they're the 2 slightly younger ones. They're 6 years older than me, 6 or 7 years older than me, so I'm the youngest by quite a bit. So Becky works with childcare in Dumfries. She lives there, she's got a young family there. Katrina was quite heavily involved with the farm, so she studied agriculture at Newcastle. She now lives with her husband on a dairy farm just outside of Castle Douglas. And then Charlotte's an occupational therapist, so she still lives on the farm. She works in kind of a mix between Castle Douglas and the Stuartshire area. So Katrina was probably the most heavily involved in the farm out of the 3.
Farming is tough. I mean, you speak to any farmer and they'll tell you how bad things are going. They never tell you how good things are going. I mean, dairy farming, though, especially, in recent years, has been extremely challenging.
Yeah, I would say so. Obviously, whenever you ask Dad, he's the exact same. I always say how things going at home, and he's like, "Oh, it's not going well this month," or "Oh, things aren't going well," and then you can have a proper sit down and talk about it, and you're like, "Oh, maybe he's over exaggerating it a little bit." At the moment, I'm trying to get more involved. Obviously, as time goes on, and as I've kind of committed now to going home to the farm after rugby, it's interesting sitting in on the meetings and stuff like that with Dad and the farm manager and the farm advisor and stuff like that, and learning more and getting more involved with it, and maybe learning that maybe Dad is over exaggerating a little bit. When you do get more involved with it, you do obviously realise how tough an industry it is, kind of especially on the staffing side of it as well. Trying to find people who want to work on a dairy farm now is getting harder and harder. So imagine by the time I come home, it might be even more difficult than it is now. So it's something to look forward to.
And systems-wise, are you parlour? Are you rotary? Are you
We're parlour, yeah. We're a 24-side swing over. So maybe something that kind of we're in the process of looking into at the moment. Is it something that we need to change, or is it something that we can keep going with? But yeah, our parlour is probably a bit too small for the herds we're working with. So it's kind of something that we might look to expand or look to change in the next few years. But as I say, we're kind of going through that transition period at the moment where Dad's thinking he maybe doesn't want to make changes as he's getting a bit older. So it's probably something we'll have to look into together.
Do you look back on your upbringing? Do you look back on it with a fondness? Do you look back? I mean, I live on a farm and my children are similar. When you say you went out and helped Dad, I mean, my husband gets the kids up and go, right, you're coming to help. There's no, I need your help today. Yeah. I mean, no, Dad, I want to sleep till 1 o'clock, whatever. That doesn't happen. I mean, it does sometimes, and none of them are showing an interest in farming. And I think that's perhaps a new generation coming through, is that the expectation is not there anymore that you have to come and do it, because it's been done before.
I think that's where my dad's really good, is that he's kind of said to me, he's like, look, this was my dream to have a dairy farm and run it this way. And he's like, if I'm going to pass the farm on to you, he's like, I want you to know that this is my dream, but if you don't want to run it like this, then don't feel like you have to do exactly what I've been doing, which I think is really refreshing to hear, that he's not lumping pressure on as in, you're going to take this business on and you have to run it 100% like I'm running it. He's more of the idea that once I'm handed it on to you, then it's kind of your thing to take care of, and he obviously wants it to do well and he wants it to succeed, but he's also not going to be looking over my shoulder the whole time and saying that things have to be done a certain way. So I think that's kind of always the way he's done things. He was never coming into your room early in the morning and dragging you out of bed to come force you to help him. I think that's obviously the best way to do it, that like eventually I've come around to the fact that that's what I want to do on my own decision, rather than him kind of forcing me into it or feel like you're being forced into it, which I think is definitely a healthier way to do it.
Don't tell my kids that. I won't tell them that.
Yeah.
And in terms of when you go back down there, I mean, is it just like I get stuck in, I know exactly what I'm doing, I'm informed, I know what I'm doing? Or is it, I mean, you talked about going to study in Newcastle, and I take it you push that further down the line, but do you need to study, do you think, to do agriculture? Or, I mean, is that something that you would consider post-rugby?
So I'm studying at the moment. I've just started I'm not studying agriculture, I'm studying business management. So at Glasgow Warriors, we have a link with Strathclyde Uni, and they kind of offered me a place to do a graduate apprenticeship in business management. I just finished my first year of that, a 3 or 4 year course. I'll be finished that and hopefully graduate by the time I go down to the farm. But no, I definitely don't think you need to start. This is me talking from my vast experience of working on the farm. But yeah, I wouldn't say you need to study and do agriculture particularly. I think the conversations I've had with Dad is more going to be hands-on learning. And I'll be honest, my knowledge in terms of the ins and outs of dairy farming will be fairly limited at the moment. Look, it's something that I'm really keen to get stuck into and learn as quickly as I can. It's going to look slightly different, and we're going to have to work through that in a certain way that hopefully we'll be able to figure out.
If we think about modern farming, how business management could be really applicable as well in terms of going forward and developing the farm.
Yeah, and hopefully that's going to help me in certain ways as well, that maybe an agricultural degree wouldn't. It's going to be able to come at it from a different side, kind of going from that kind of professional sport into it. But hopefully I can take the attributes I've learned from sport and in terms of hard work and resilience and stuff like that, and transfer those things over as well.
I know lots of agrics that went to Newcastle, and I'm not sure much study was done.
That's what Dad said as well. Dad said he was at Cirencester and he learned some stuff, but there was a lot of drinking stuff done as well. So he's not sure how much he learned from there either.
You've obviously had the conversation, so you've had that pivotal conversation. I will come home. I mean, why do you want to go home, and what is it about it that excites you?
I think kind of when I came up to the city, I'd obviously had the place at agriculture and studied agriculture in Newcastle, so it was always in the back of my head that it was something that I was thinking of doing. And then I think when you come up to the city and you live up here, you realise how much of a great place the countryside is, and what an unbelievable opportunity it is to have the chance to run a business like a dairy farm. Obviously, it comes with its extreme trials and it's going to push you very hard. But I think when I've kind of been up here, I think if I didn't give it a shot and didn't go down and give it my best chance, then I'd always regret it. And it's something that I'd look back on and be upset that I didn't do. So I think what a place in the world to live as well, to live out in the countryside, out in the seaside as well. I think now as well that I've kind of settled down with my partner. We had a long talk about it. She's from the countryside, but not from a farming background. So yeah, it's something that we spent a lot of time thinking about and kind of decided that it's something we wanted to do.
So you got her to sign on the dotted line yet?
Dotted line. We actually just got engaged when we were on holidays. So.
Oh, congratulations!
Thank you.
That's fantastic news. Oh, well done. Was it obviously a lovely surprise for her?
Yeah, she was. She actually didn't manage to figure out it was happening. So I was carrying the ring about for about 12 days on holiday, and she managed not to find it. So I managed to keep it a lot of a surprise. It's good because I was sure she knew. I thought because she's going to admit like a day later that she knew, but she said she didn't. So
congratulations. That's wonderful, wonderful news. I'm keen to understand what you put your body through, and is it one of those things that you just really enjoy? Is that something that you love, just really pushing yourself?
I think so, yeah. I think to play rugby as a sport is something you've got to enjoy, kind of pushing your body to places that sometimes doesn't really want to go to, especially in games. Kind of if you take a knock or something like that, being able to play through and keep going. But like we were talking about earlier, pre-season is probably the time of the year when that comes to the fore the most. You kind of see who's got the most screws loose when you're going through pre-season training, and everyone's, because that is the time when you're really pushed to your limits, because as I say, you can't do a lot of that stuff. So over last year with Glasgow, you're going to military camps and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, I think you have to be willing to push your body to that kind of dark place to be able to do it as a career.
And then, so I suppose the flip side is that the social life potentially takes a knock. You don't get to do what lots of other mid-20s are doing.
Yeah, I think coming through the academy when you're really trying to make it pro, you were probably a bit more like that. And then when you get older, you realise that kind of rugby is quite a social sport. And they do a really good job at the Warriors of making sure that there's a social side to it, more in terms of they're really good at getting all the families involved in everything and making sure that wives and partners are really a big part of the club. They come to all the games. They have a kind of separate family area, and boys will have a beer in the changing room and stuff after the game. So I think it's the kind of thing, as you mature more into the life of a pro, you realise that if you're working hard and stuff like that, you can balance it as well with the good social life.
So how do you switch off?
I know, obviously, I've got my dog lying here next to me. He's a big part of it. He's really good in the day off. It gets me out the flat and stuff like that, and gets me kind of out and about Glasgow and taken for walks. And then there's a few of us with dogs who get out there. Obviously, coming down and being involved, starting to get involved with the farm as well. It's a lot of times on the days off, I'll be on kind of Zoom calls like this with Dad and the farm manager and the farm advisor, talking about what's going on at home. Also, before, like I said, I'm studying now as well. So kind of with our training days, a lot of the time when you come home from training, you're pretty tired. So kind of those days off and stuff at the time, I'll do a lot of studying work and stuff like that as well. And then I guess stuff, like going for coffees with my mates, spending time with my now fiance, just stuff like that, unwinding, staying close with your friends, stuff like that would be the stuff I usually do.
Where's the best place for coffee?
Yeah, I'm quite lucky that I'm in the West End, so there's about 100 places within a stone's throw. A lot of us, there's a place called Paper Cup just down the road from me, so a lot of us go there.
And nutrition-wise, that must be so important. Are you very strict? Are you very good with what you put inside your body?
I'm lucky Lauren, my fiancée, she's just doing her master's in nutrition. So we've really nailed it in terms of being able to help me. So yeah, I'd like to think we're pretty good. We'll eat together and we'll share the cooking and stuff like that. So we like to eat pretty well on the flat. When we're on holiday, not so much. That's probably our time when we cut loose and just kind of forget about it and eat what we want for maybe a week or two. Yeah, when we're at home, obviously we eat our breakfast and our lunch in the club at Glasgow. So that's all controlled in terms of they give you what they want to give you, and there's not much choice in that. But at home, yeah, we pretty whole foods, lots of vegetables.
Oh, lots of vegetables. You're good at eating your vegetables.
I've grown up to be, maybe not when I was younger. I was the fussiest when I was younger. Apparently, I only used to eat ham sandwiches. My mum could never understand. She's like, a farmer's son and he won't eat. You're supposed to eat everything and eat nothing. But I've gotten a lot better now.
How many kilograms are you now then? So it hasn't done you that bad.
Yeah, I'm 108 now, so I've managed to put on weight.
108. Yeah, and obviously well-being, buzzwords at the moment. Everybody, this is what the whole podcast is about, I suppose, is encouraging people to do something that makes them feel good and they look after their mind as much as their body. Are you very conscious of that?
I think so. Yeah, I think, like I touched on before, rugby's put me through some tough times. Obviously, you're extremely lucky you're playing in professional sport. People could say, oh, how can you complain when you're playing rugby? But when you're in it and when you want to play every week, you want to be playing well. When that's not happening, it can be really tough because people look from the outside and say, how can you not enjoy your job? How can you not? You've got one of the best. You're so lucky to do this for a living. How can you not enjoy it? When you're in it and it is your job and it's not going well, it can be really hard. A couple of years ago at Glasgow, I went through a rough patch when I kind of wasn't on the right side of the coach, wasn't playing. I think I played 10 games in 2 seasons, compared to last season where I played 21 games in 1 season with Glasgow. So that was a really tough time in terms of my mental being wasn't in a good place. And I was really lucky. That was kind of around the time that I met Lauren. So she kind of really helped me through that and really kind of was someone for me to lean on during that tough period. But it's the kind of thing where people will look in and be like, oh, these guys are just happy all the time and they do this amazing job. But when you come into Glasgow, when you look, you can see players who kind of aren't enjoying it, who are struggling a little bit. So there's definitely 2 sides to it.
I suppose the whole point of it, when it's team selection, they always keep you guessing, don't they? So, you never know until you know. You must have a few sweats the night before that.
Yeah, so in Glasgow, Franco's really good. The Glasgow coach, he'll usually get round everyone before team announcement and speak to you kind of individually on whether you're playing or not and why you're not playing. And he rotates the team quite heavily. So you know that if you're training well and you're training hard and you're putting effort in, then you're going to get a chance to play. But obviously some coaches aren't like that. Some coaches will kind of find a 23 that they like and they'll heavily stick with that unless there's injuries. So I guess we're lucky at Glasgow that Franco's, he always says that everyone in the room is going to get a chance to play. So that's all 46 to 50 players. So when you look at it that way, there's maybe 50 players sitting in the room and only 23 get to play every week. So there's more than half of the players sitting in the room that don't get to run out and play at the weekend. So that's kind of the other side of sport that you see, that there's guys who train the whole week, do everything the team do, and then don't get the enjoyment of putting on a jersey at the weekend and getting to go and play in front of thousands of people. So they've got to sit in the stands and watch the other boys do it, which is tough when you're on that side of it.
You've got to brush yourself down and the next day just get on with it again.
Yeah, exactly. Then you get back in on Monday and the whole cycle starts again. If you're not playing again and you go, it's 2 weeks since I last played, and then it becomes 3 weeks. And for me, it was 4 or 5 months. I was sitting there training every week, and there's 4 or 5 guys, 4 or 5 of your mates who are in the same boat as well. You're thinking, oh, it's maybe 2 or 3 months till we're talking about contracts with the managing director, and I've not played in 4 months. Okay, that's what happened to me. I went 4 or 5 months without playing, and then the managing director pulled me in and said, oh, there's probably not going to be a contract for you here next season. So then you start kind of getting on the phone to your agent. I was speaking to my old coaches. I phoned Dave Rennie, who's the Glasgow coach, who's the Wallabies coach at that time. So I phoned him and he was like, I'll try and help you out. I know some coaches in different places, but then they're saying, well, he hasn't played, so we're not going to give him a contract either. So thankfully, at the end of it, Glasgow kind of came back and offered me a 1-year deal to give me another shot. And then Franco came in and managed to kind of kick on to where I am now. But I was 2 weeks away from probably either finishing up or doing something else. And that would have been me home back on the farm a few years earlier than I wanted to be.
Is that when you get that moment, is it a dad, mum? I mean, do you still go back there and go, oh, this has happened? Or, I suppose you've got your partner, but I'm not sure you had her then, but do you rely on them for support?
Yeah, definitely. Thankfully, I was with Lauren at that time, because I don't know if I was the best person to be around at that time in my career. Probably quite emotional, I'm a very competitive person, so I found it tough to come to grips with that I just wasn't needed anymore. Like, that's quite a hard thing to be told, like, oh, we just don't need you at this club anymore. Like, we just don't think you're worth keeping around. She was really good at helping me get through that. Obviously, Dad was amazing. He would kind of offer me the other side of it and say, like, look, while you're still so young, you can do so much else with your life. And if you want to come home now, then just do that. And if you want to go and try and play somewhere else, then go and try and play somewhere else. But yeah, he was a really good person to lean on. And so was Lauren and all my sisters as well. They were really good and helped me get through it. And thankfully, it was only a kind of 2-week period when I was in that. I don't have a contract, I don't know what I'm going to do. And then Glasgow came back and offered me something. And thankfully, it's worked out really well now. But yeah, like I said, pro sport's one of those things where it's peaks and troughs. And that was definitely a trough. But then the next season was an absolute high, going on and getting my first cap for Scotland and captaining Glasgow a couple of times during that year and playing so many times. I'm really glad now that I stuck with it and was able to come through the other side of it.
I'm just going to clock your age. How old are you, Stafford? 26. You're pretty level-headed, and you seem a pretty confident, level-headed young man for 26. So, rugby, the dream, what is it?
I don't know, it's like we talked about earlier, there's always that next car in front of you. A year and a half ago, I said, I want to get a cap for Scotland. Like, everyone wants to play for Scotland. Like, it's unbelievable. And then once you do that, you think, oh, what's the next thing? And the next thing I was like, I obviously wanted to play in the World Cup. And unfortunately, I made it into the squad, but then was cut just before the tournament started. So that's still obviously a dream is to play in the World Cup. And I wanted to play in the Six Nations, and thankfully I managed to get a game against Ireland in the last game of Six Nations this year. So I think going into the next season, it's just about consistency. It's about kind of being able to, again, hopefully consistently get in the Glasgow team and hoping that'll lead to selection in the Scotland squad for the autumn and the Six Nations and try and pick up some more caps. I've still not had a kind of a proper taste of playing at a sold-out Murrayfield, so that's something that I'm hoping to do at some point in my career. I managed to get my first cap there, but it was a World Cup warm-up game, so I think it wasn't quite sold out, it was a bit less. So that's something over the next couple of years to get the chance to play at Murrayfield and kind of run out when it's sold out would be unbelievable, because I've been, they call it the 24th man, so you do the warm-up but you don't play. So I've been 24th man there about 8 to 10 times now, I think, so I'm itching to get on the pitch and play in one of them.
Well, if you say it's going to happen, you're manifesting it, okay? You're manifesting it.
Yeah, I know, I've got it written down somewhere, I'm pretty sure.
Have you? I know Richard McCall that had the napkin, that he went through the process. I don't know if you've seen that documentary, amazing. And also, you're not going to have any time to worry about rugby. You're planning a wedding.
I know, thankfully, Lauren she'll be planning it for a while. She says she wants to finish her Masters and then she's going to start planning it. So I think it'll be a couple of years, if not a bit longer, before we're into that yet. So we've got some time to think about it. I'll say it now, but I don't know if I'll have too much involvement in the planning. I think I'll leave it mostly up to Lauren.
Well, that's a lovely way to be. I'm sure she'll do a great job. Do you have a pre-match routine? Are you superstitious in any way?
I wouldn't say I'm overly superstitious. I think I used to be probably more. I used to try and wear the same pair of boxers for a game and stuff like that. Then kind of working with these sports psychologists, they kind of teach you that you can maybe have a couple, but don't get overbeared on your superstitions, because if one time one goes wrong before a game, then how are you going to react? So it's more of being able to fall back on the hard work you've done during the week. So stuff like I'll always set myself goals for a game or goals at the start of the week that I want to tick off, or things that I make sure I want to know I do during training during the week that's going to get me ready for the game. Just when I'm sitting there, I can kind of look through my notebook and see, like, okay, I've worked on my kicking this week, I've worked on my passing. If the opportunity comes up during the game, then I'm going to be confident to be able to take that opportunity and kind of execute that. Saying that, I'll always have the same meal the night before a game, carbonara, so something nice and easy. I can't say that before you ask me how I cook it, Lauren does it. She cooks a good carbonara, so she commits to doing that the night before the game. And then we'll always have that on an away trip as well. It'll always be an option on an away trip. And then usually on the day of a game, I decide to get out with the dog, take him for a nice walk and clear my head a little bit.
You have tools that you employ to sort of, that you have a process.
Yeah, I'd say they're more tools and superstitions. It's probably a good way of putting it. Like, say, for example, that I can't have carbonara the night before the game. I'm not going to freak out and not think that I can't play, but I'll maybe just be a bit hungrier. I'd say, like, there's certain things I want to do. Like, I like to get to the stadium in plenty of time before a home game and just kind of be around the stadium and get a stretch in and stuff like that. I don't like to be rushed. I'm kind of an early person. I like to do things 10, 15 minutes before rather than getting there just on time.
And you're saying you write things down. If you write it, you visualize it. And it's sort of like, I've written it now, so I have to do it.
Yeah, it's something they've touched on a bit with Scotland over the summer tour, is kind of with the international games more than the club ones. When you get to the ground, you'll go for a walk out on the pitch. And then trying to kind of get us to do some visualization on captain's run day or on game day when you get to the pitch of how you want things to go in the game and picturing some scenarios. So it's something that I've kind of started to use over the summer as well, is that visualization, and how I can bring that into my game.
You very kindly agreed to support Farmstrong Scotland, which is fantastic. You'll be a huge role model to lots of farmers out there. So why did you want to get involved?
I think it's just that farming can be such a lonely job at times, I think. From my year working at home, I know you can spend a lot of the day by yourself, and farmers particularly are probably not great in sharing their feelings and sharing how they're getting on. It's something that I struggled a lot with when I was younger. So just to be able to support such a good organisation that's doing such a good job and helping farmers with their mental well-being and their mental health, and kind of teaching them that it's okay to open up and share, and that there is help out there for people who need it. I
mean, Stafford, it's been a joy to talk to you. You just come across as a very lovely, assured, level-headed and capable young man who's very talented, and I hope you go a long way in the sport.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having me on. It's been awesome to come on and talk about it.
We hope you enjoyed today's blether and it has provided some inspiration for your own well-being. One small step can make a big impact. Find something that works for you. To read our latest stories and news, download our resources and tools, or connect with Farmstrong Scotland, visit our website, allthews.farmstrongscotland.org.uk, or follow us on social media.